So I would like to acknowledge that this selection process has been a great improvement over what happened last October. And now it's going to get a little more serious. The relationship between the planning board and the select board has become increasingly strained over the last few years, and this is not news to anyone. Town government depends upon trust between boards, trust between members of boards, trust that we are all acting for the good of the town. Last October, the planning board and the select board found themselves in a very similar situation to what we are today. At that time, the last bridge of trust between these two boards was almost totally destroyed by the actions of the select board chair and the select board. That selection used an approach which did not result in a transparent and fair selection process. The planning board recognized this immediately after the meeting and contacted town clerk, town council, and the select board chair. We wanted to remedy the gross distortions of that process. That process was amenable to correction, and the injury could have been corrected, but it was not. There were several opportunities where the select board could have come in and helped remedy that process. The first was when the chair was advised by the planning board chair that there was a problem that the entire planning board had with that process. At that point, he could simply have fulfilled the promise that he had made, which is in a transcript you should have in your packet, which says, and I quote, "If there is some problem, our motion at the end to approve that person will be contingent on certifying the ranked choice process was accurate in case something does go wrong." Something did go wrong. And the appropriate response would have been to revisit that decision-making process. That was not done. Subsequent to that, there was a meeting held between Town Council Mina Markarios, Chair Von Mering of the Planning Board, Chair Betancourt of the Select Board to discuss the Planning Board's concerns. At that meeting, Chair Betancourt explicitly refused to convene a joint meeting to remedy the problems. Subsequently, the Planning Board members present at that joint selection meeting voted unanimously in a public meeting to request another joint meeting to discuss and remedy the failings of the process. I personally emailed a letter to each of the select board members delineating our concerns. A copy of that letter should be in your packet. What happened after that is absolutely nothing. There was not a single response from the select board. So we have a problem here. We have three events that we have to reckon with. We have a public commitment by the chair of the select board that was meant to reassure members that any concerns about the process would be resolved. That was ignored and repudiated. The select board, when presented with a list of serious concerns by the entire planning board, did nothing. The select board, when asked by 4 of the 5 members of the planning board to meet and discuss an issue which strikes at the ability of the planning board to operate without a cloud hanging over its member, did nothing. And I want to reiterate that town government depends upon trust between the boards and the public they serve. And that trust depends upon openness and transparency, and the actions of the select board, especially that of the former chair, has pushed that thin line of trust to the breaking point. The planning board was extremely upset with what happened, if that isn't already obvious. Decisions must be made in the open. They cannot be made by a single person at a private meeting who refuses to schedule a joint meeting, putting in jeopardy the legal authority of the planning board to perform its duties as a special permit granting authority. Decisions cannot be made in the open if an entire board refuses to acknowledge the legitimate concerns of another elected board. The planning board is ready to work to do our part to serve this town. 2 of the candidates who suffered through that process stepped forward to run for election to the planning board. The other candidate who joined the board last October has once more come forward to continue serving. That any of them would do so after the debacle of last October is a testament to their dedication. The onus is now on the select board to repair the trust it has lost. The board has a stark choice. It can either retreat back to the days of the old boys network, where decisions are made behind closed doors, or they can move forward. The events which unfolded at your last meeting on Monday has sent a shockwave through my board, the planning board. And believe me when I say that you have made repair of that last fraying bridge of trust very, very difficult. I see this as a moment to move forward, but it has been shown time and time again, before reconciliation comes truth. And I have spoken what I know to be the truth. And on that note, we can close the planning board session if the board's desire. Do I have a motion?
I would just say, and I hope I speak on behalf of the rest of my board, that we intend to rebuild that trust.
I thank you. I look forward to that. This has been an exceedingly sore point. I know that we'd only have 2 of the former members on this board, but I know I can speak for the 4 members who were on that planning board, that the rejection of our attempts to outreach and remedy the situation was frustrating, aggravating, and struck at the entire heart of our process of trust in town government. So I thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn from the planning board, please?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Could I have a roll call vote, please? And I guess we have to wait, Cheryl, until you get sworn in again. So Dale?
Dale, aye.
I-Ching, Scott?
Scott, aye.
I've already forgotten who else is on the board. Heather Hannon, please.
Hannon, aye.
And this is Jerius, aye. Thank you very much. I'm sorry that the rest of the people had to witness to that, but town government can be messy. Thank you much and have a great evening.